Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking something that is so often viewed as a tedious, frustrating administrative chore, writing multiple-choice questions, and we're going to transform it into a strategically designed, scientifically backed diagnostic tool.
Now, I want you to think for a second. Have you ever been totally frustrated by a poorly written, confusing multiple-choice test? Let's be honest, we have all suffered through trick questions, vaguely worded options, and those lazy, all-of-the-above cop-outs. It's a terrible experience for the learner, right? Plus, it provides zero real data for the instructor. But today, we're unpacking the exact blueprint to build fair and highly effective assessments.
We're going to tackle this masterclass in 5 modular steps: anatomy of assessments, crafting the perfect STEM, designing plausible distractors, assessing higher-order thinking, and finally, testing the test itself. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The anatomy of assessments. Let's start off by establishing a shared vocabulary for deconstructing our assessment tools.
First up, we have the STEM. This is the foundational question, problem, or scenario that your learners need to solve. It's literally the core of what you are asking them to analyze.
Next is the keyed response. This just means the singular correct or undeniably best answer that validates the skill you're measuring. It is the target outcome on which subject matter experts would completely, 100% agree. And finally, we have the distractors. What's absolutely crucial to remember here is that distractors should never be arbitrary tricks. They need to be highly plausible and logically incorrect options, designed specifically to reveal gaps in a learner's knowledge. Essentially, they're built around common student errors. But hold on, before you write a single word of your STEM or distractors, you need to confirm a multiple-choice question is actually the right tool for the job. Looking at this breakdown, they are incredibly efficient for broad content coverage, assessing large groups, automated scoring, and diagnosing misconceptions. But if you need someone to, say, create original work, yeah, they are a terrible tool for that. You've got to make sure your assessment matches your objective.
Section 2. Crafting the perfect STEM. Now that we understand the basic anatomy, let's look at how to optimize that critical first component.
Good STEMs follow some pretty strict structural rules. They must be stated as a clear, direct question and focus on a single concept. You want to completely avoid that double-barreled confusion where you're asking two things at once. A beautifully written STEM contains enough context so that the learner could theoretically answer it without even glancing at the options. Plus, you absolutely must eliminate vague wording and ensure you aren't inadvertently giving away the answer through sloppy grammar, like ending a STEM with "and" when only one option starts with a vowel. We've all seen that happen.
Just compare this poorly written STEM to a polished one. The before example here is a rambling, negatively phrased mess. It forces the reader to untangle syntax before they can even think about the actual content. But the polished STEM? It's perfectly concise. What is the recommended daily water intake for adults? It's clean, it's simple, and a knowledgeable test taker could answer this in their head immediately.
Section 3. Designing plausible distractors. So once you have a perfect STEM, you need brilliant incorrect options.
The main thing to keep in mind here is that we are diagnosing misconceptions, not tricking our students. Distractors must be plausible, logical, and consistent in length. You also have to eliminate lazy fallbacks like all of the above or none of the above, because honestly, high-quality test options should be randomized. And those absolute determiners like always or never, get rid of them. They are usually dead giveaways that an option is incorrect.
It all boils down to quality over quantity. Research actually shows that the quality of your distractors impacts test reliability far more than just having a huge number of options. Crafting 3 highly plausible distractors based on actual learner mistakes is infinitely more valuable than padding a question with unlikely throwaway options just to hit some arbitrary 4-choice quota.
Section 4. Assessing higher-order thinking. So you might be wondering, how exactly do we scale these perfectly crafted questions to assess way more than just basic memorization?
Well, by mapping questions against the cognitive process dimension, like Bloom's taxonomy, we can see exactly how to elevate them. We really want to move away from the basic factual recall of verbs like list or recognize. That's the caution zone. We want to push up into the target areas. This is where we want our summative assessments to live, pushing learners to apply, analyze, and evaluate by asking them to select, differentiate, or judge. To actually reach those higher-order cognitive levels, you need to step away from simple definitions and start writing scenario-based STEMs. These force learners to synthesize multiple pieces of evidence to solve a real problem.
For instance, instead of just asking for the definition of a disease, present a patient's symptoms and living conditions and ask the learner to evaluate which finding has the greatest implication for their care. Now that requires real, practical application.
And finally, Section 5, testing the test itself. Because once your beautifully designed assessment is deployed, you actually need the analytics to prove that it worked in the real world.
We achieve this using a statistical process called item analysis. It's exactly what it sounds like, testing the test. We do this to ensure our individual questions are genuinely reliable and valid, rather than just crossing our fingers and guessing that they are.
The very first metric we look at is the difficulty index, which measures how many students got an item right. Now, if that metric hits a 1.0, that means every single student chose the correct answer. While that might feel like a massive teaching victory, it actually indicates the question might be way too easy to distinguish true mastery from just basic surface-level competence.
Even more importantly, we have the discrimination index. This measures validity. A value of 0.3 or higher proves that your question is accurately separating the students who truly know the content from those who are just randomly guessing. High values indicate fantastic items, while low values indicate poor ones.
If your discrimination index falls near 0, well, your item is failing. It means your question is extremely easy, impossibly hard, or just suffering from high levels of student guessing. Conversely, a highly effective item has moderate difficulty and a high discrimination value, successfully distinguishing your true top performers.
Furthermore, you can even run a distractor analysis to fine-tune your items for the next time around. If you calculate the proportion of choices and realize, hey, nobody is falling for option C, then it simply isn't a plausible misconception. It's just taking up space and needs to be replaced to maintain the rigor of the test.
As we wrap up this explainer and you head off to build your own assessments, I really want you to challenge yourself. Ask yourself, what will your next test really measure? Will it be an exercise in trivial guesswork, or will you use this blueprint to create a true, targeted diagnostic tool? The power is entirely in your hands.